Hello Year 8, I hope you're all well. So as you are aware, we have finished our geometry chapter and now we're going to be moving on to our next chapter, which we're going to be looking at fractions, decimals and percentages. So we're going to start off with fractions. So we've got 1 week left until the school holidays, so this week we will just be focusing on fractions. And then once we return from the holidays, we'll be going to be looking at decimals and we're also going to be looking at percentages. So we'll get started. First thing that we're going to be looking at today is exercise 3A, which is all about equivalent fractions and it's also about simplifying fractions. So for now, we're just going to look at equivalent fractions first and then we're going to look at simplifying fractions later. So what are equivalent fractions? If I have a half, it's the same as 2/4, 3/6, 4/8, 5/10. These are all equal to a half, so they are considered to be equivalent. Okay, so equivalent fractions just means that they're two fractions that equal the same. Now, what it says here, we're going to be looking at this example. It says rewrite the following fractions with a denominator of 40. So at the moment, the first one they gave us is 3/5. So how do we approach these questions? What do we need to do? Alright, so the first thing that we do is we write down the fraction. So we're going to go 3/5, that's the one. Now, the denominator is the bottom number. So we've got the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator is the bottom number. We need to change that bottom number to 40. So you have to think to yourself, okay, what number do I have at the bottom? At the moment, I have 5. Okay, I have 5 there. So, I have to think to myself, okay, what do I need to do to the 5 in order to get 40? Okay, what do I need to do? What number do I need to multiply it by to get 40? Alright, so you have a think. What number do we multiply 5 by to get 40? Okay, so it's going to be 8. So, we're going to multiply the 5 by 8 to get 40. Now, whatever we do to the bottom, we're also going to do to the top. So if I've multiplied that number by 8, I'm also going to multiply my top number by 8. So I'm also going to do 3 times 8, because I times the bottom by 8, I have to times the top by 8 as well. So that's going to be 24. Okay, so now I have rewritten my fraction with a denominator of 40. So it's going to be 24 divided by 40. Alright, let's move on to the next one, B. So we have a half, so I'm going to write that down, 1/2. I need to change that to a bottom number of 40. So then I look at my 2 and my 40 and I think to myself, okay, what do I times 2 by to get 40? Okay, I'll times it by 20. So times 20. Okay, the other way that you can look at it is pretend that the 0 is not there. So you have 2 and 4. What do I times 2 by to get 4? 2. But then if it's 40, it's going to be 20. So you add the 2 zeros. You add the 0 there and the 0 there to make it 20. Alright, so that's another way that you can do it. Okay, so 2 times 20 is 40. So then if I times the bottom by 20, I have to times the top by 20 as well. So I'm going to times that number there by 20. So 1 times 20 is 20. So 20/40. Okay, let's have a look now. I'm just going to check my camera. Just want to make sure that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Yes, you can. Perfect. Awesome. Alright, okay, C. Now, C is 7/4. So I write down my fraction, 7/4. Then I think to myself, okay, what do I times the 4 by to get 40? I'm going to times it by 10. So times by 10. Oops. What am I doing? Times 10. Whatever I do to the bottom, I also do to the top. So I'm going to times the top number by 10 as well. So 7 times 10 is going to be 70. So it's going to be 70/40. Alright, and finally, D, 36/120. Now here, I want to get to 40. And as you can see, 120 is bigger than 40. So what you can do, instead of timesing it by a number, we divide by a number. So you think to yourself, okay, now if I want to get to 120 from 40, I know I'm going to go 40, 80, 120. If I keep adding 40 each time, I've added 43 times in order to get 120, haven't I? So then I think to myself, okay, if I've added 43 times, that means I've times 40 by 3. So the opposite of timesing by 3 is dividing by 3. So if I do 120 divided by 3, I will get 40. So if I've divided the bottom number by 3, I also have to divide the top number by 3. So if we divide the top number by 3, we're going to get 12. Okay? So our answer will be 12 over 40. So now what we've done is we've converted all of those fractions with a denominator of 40. So what I will get you to do is copy those down into your rules book. If you still don't understand it and you want to come on Google Meet for help, you're more than welcome. So copy it down, have a go at the questions, and if it doesn't make sense and you don't understand, please come on Google Meet, okay? Alright, moving on. Alright, so moving on now to simplifying fractions. So in this example, we're going to be looking at how do we simplify fractions. Okay, so it says write the following fractions in simplest form. Okay, now what we need to do here is we need to think about our factors. So before we think about our factors though, I just want to show you one way that you can do this. Okay, just so you get a better understanding about what it is. When they ask you to simplify it, 8 over 20, we can write it in a simpler way. So we could, for example, halve both of those numbers, okay, and we could get 4 out of 10. Now, that though is not in its simplest form. Then you have to think, can I simplify further? Well, if I halve that number, and if I halve that number, I'm also going to get 2 out of 5, aren't I? So these two fractions are equal, but what you've done here is you have written it in its simplest form. Okay, so you can't go any simpler than 2/5. Okay, because if I halve 5, I'm going to get 2.5. I'm going to get a decimal, so that's not going to work out. Okay, so in fraction form, this is the simplest I can go. Now, as you can see here, I follow 2 steps in order to get there. Sometimes you might need 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. Now that is a little bit time consuming. With this one it's not too bad, but with other ones it's time consuming. So there is an easier way, and the easier way is to look for factors. Now what are factors? So let's do this one again now, and let's have a think about factors. What are factors? So I've got 8 and I've got 20. So I have to think, okay, what are my factors of 8? So in other words, what numbers go into the number 8? So you have to think, what numbers can I multiply in order to get 8? And they will be your factors of 8. So for example, I can multiply 4 and 2. So we know that 4 and 2 are factors of 8. Okay? I can multiply 1 and 8. So 1 is also a factor of 8 and 8 is a factor of 8. Are there any others? Okay, we can't think of any at the moment. Okay, so then we go to the 20 and we think, okay, what are our factors of 20? So then we think, okay, what numbers do I multiply to get 20? I can multiply 10 and 2 to get 20. So that means that 10 is a factor, and that means that 2 is also a factor of 20. Okay, are there any other numbers I can multiply by to get 20? Well, I can multiply 4 and 5 to get 20. So that means that 4 is a factor of 20 and 5 is also a factor of 20. Alright, can I multiply? Is there any other factors of 20? What about 8? Does 8 go into 20? Well, if I say my 8 times tables, okay, you will notice 1, 8, 8, 2, 8, 16, 3, 8 is 24. So it doesn't go into 20. So therefore, 8 is not a factor of 20. So what we have to do is we have to find the highest common factor that is common to both of these numbers. So if I look at my 8, I know that 8 is not a factor of 20, so it can't be 8. So then I have to think of a lower one. So what other number goes into 20 that also goes into 8? 4.